But Chris and Tim, we've got a pretty good crowd forming tonight. I'm very pleased. This came together quickly, but I think it's a testament to the quality of our program and students. We've had quite a few people sign up. So again, from those two courses, we've got from the social media side of the house, Brian Dare, Kate Gromatsky, Kristen Grosso, Courtney Wodlinski, and George Wentz. And then from PR management, Andre Barracks, Nia Lissamore, Bobby Sue, and Travis Teletochi. From Marist, and also Jerry Valentin Cruz. Other MA and IMC students, they're not in my courses right now, would be David Ayers, Pat Hickey, and Kate Smith. And we also were able, just this afternoon, to open up a few of our open seats to some applicants for our program. I see some of them have joined us. So Johnny Ann Hansen, Kim and Bill Stoddard, Tara Babcock have joined us and have applied to get into the program. I think it's a great opportunity to have some of our applicants see our program in action and the quality of some of the experts that we can connect our students with. So with that, let me bring us back to our home site here. And I guess let me lead off, Tim and Chris, with, I guess, just an observation. I recall just tonight that this is not the first time you all have met or been together in a classroom forum. Chris, in your book, you know, the world is exploding because of social media. You mentioned Tim several years ago inviting you to campus at Marist to speak to some undergraduate students. And I recognize the names of some of those students who I also had in class. And I was very moved by your kind of prelude to the book. We came home to your wife after that evening at Marist talking about the energetic young students who needed to know more about social media. They were bright, they were young, they were energetic, and it inspired you to write your book, which became, as I understand, top of the Amazon list within about 2 weeks. So thanks for providing that, and thanks for the mention of Marist. So this is not your first time at Marist, not the first time with Tim. And the question I left you with was, can you follow up on what you've written since then and discovered since then, both you and Tim, on why should social media be so important to us? Maybe not so much from a personal perspective, but a business perspective. And Chris, you mentioned, for instance, in your recent Fox interview, you can't leave the landscape for others to talk about you. You have to take charge and get your message out there. So I thought that was very important. And if you could both follow up on that. Tim, let me just begin with you, since, you know, in case you fall asleep during the session, we'll let you early start.
Nothing personal to anybody. Well, actually, let me just mention briefly, and Chris can jump in here too, how Chris and I actually met. We met at a tweet-up several years ago down in Pleasantville, and it was a great event. I learned a lot, and great speakers, great mixing and mingling. It was funny because we all wore name tags with our Twitter handles on them, and you know, Chris and I just hit it off, and I love watching him on TV. His presentation at Marist that was great. It took us a while to get it put together and put it up, but it really was a great opportunity. And for me, that kind of shows one of the primary things about social media overall, and Twitter in particular, is that it allows you to start building your own personal brand and make contacts. So just in the last couple of weeks alone, 2 speakers that I brought to Marist for my class and for others are people that I met online through combined Facebook and Twitter. Jake Tapper, who's now the correspondent, former White House correspondent for ABC News, and now has his own show on CNN, and Ryan Davis, who's become a very close friend of mine, who is Executive Director of Social Innovation for Blue State Digital in Manhattan. And again, contacts that I would never have been able to make probably without social media, and particularly as a guy who had worked in PR, I probably have about 50 reporters and bloggers that still follow me, and have asked me to write for their blogs, which has then led me to do radio interviews, TV interviews, blog postings. I'm even getting paid now for op-eds for newspapers, which I never had done that before. And those are all contacts made through social media. So it's allowing me to, between blogging, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, which I don't use as much, LinkedIn, and a few other sites, it's allowing me to establish myself as being known for certain different things, particularly now with all the stuff going on in the Vatican, because I've taught the course in Rome for so many years. I'm doing a lot of that now. Sirius XM, WTOP at the all-news station in Washington, D.C. I'm their Vatican expert. So, you know, again, these are contacts that you make online, and then you carry those into your work life to help establish your own personal brand. I'll leave the rest of that for Chris.
Yeah, where do I begin? So, firstly, I wanted to make it abundantly clear to the students that they're lucky to have Mark in their life, because I was able to meet Mark that chilly March evening in Marist, and I was lucky to have Timian reach out to me and be able to speak to the students in Marist. And as they both spoke about, I decided to write my book that evening, literally that evening in the car ride home. Oh. I will try to speak a little bit about social media right now and where I think it touches public relations, and try and get to some meat on the bone, as opposed to just talking about where we are in terms of some media things. I know that the TV appearances I do are fun. Sometimes they're silly. If you really took a close look at the last one, it's usually me just trying to stave off the silliness that Greg Kelly's like, wait a minute, what's the Facebook? Why do I have to be on the Facebook? So maybe down to some more meat and potatoes. The way I like to look at social media is a bit different. The way I position it in my book is that it's much more of a spiritual awakening rather than a technological one. Now, that is just a metaphor. I don't want people to get too freaked out. And the reason why I use that metaphor is because I believe that over the past 500 years, there have been about 4 or 5 revolutionary pieces of media that have changed the manner in which we aggregate and disseminate information, starting with the printing press, to the radio, to television, to telephones, to video, to talkies, to movies the way that we know them. Those inventions over the course of the past 500 years have definitively changed our culture. If you think about it, we were in a village, one person would pass information to the other person in the village, then they would walk to somebody else and say, hey, look, I just had a conversation with Chris. This is what he just told me. All of a sudden the printing press comes along. It's now amplified. You can publish advertising. You can spread propaganda from a political perspective. That's the printing press. That changes to the radio. You can now have a one-to-many message, a unified message across many different channels, and then you can ingest the media, not just singularly, like you would with a newspaper, but with a group, right? So you could turn to your friend that's listening to the same radio show. I always have this image of people sitting on the floor, kids sitting on the floor kind of in black and white listening to the Lone Ranger. I talk about how, like in 1993, when I was in my college dorm, we used to watch Beverly Hills 90210 together, and everybody would talk, and it was a social thing. And then there's the telephone, there's the one-to-one communication of the telephone, and then there's the movies. And the definitive change that the Internet has done, / social media, is that we have all of these connections, all of this media, all of these revolutionary bits and inventions that were considered revolutionary in terms of the manner in which we aggregate and disseminate information. And all of a sudden, the late 90s come along and we get the Internet, right? The Internet is sort of that last addition to the media. However, the most exciting invention is when all of this gets flipped and rolled into, kind of like dough gets rolled into, you know, when you're like kneading dough and you're rolling the dough, all of the media, the printing press, the radio, the television, the telephone, the movies, all of that gets rolled into the Internet, and that is social media. And what I mean by that is that the printing press no longer is controlled by the big fat rich guy in the corner office. You don't have to pay money to go to the advertiser and to get published in a newspaper. You can become the publisher by blogging. And no longer do you have to go to a radio station and pander to the radio station for somebody to put your content on a radio station or pay the radio station for an advertiser, because you can create a simple podcast. And no longer do you have to go to a television station and say, I want to pay all these ridiculous ad dollars because I want to be on television, or try to go through all these different talent agents to have your own show, because you can go to YouTube and you can create your own show and you immediately have your own television show. And you don't have to even leverage a telephone. You could use Skype. And there, like that minute, that moment, that rolling in of all of those media inventions and all of those cataclysmic cultural shifting inventions in media that have now rolled into the internet is at the fulcrum of all of the power of social media. And that's where I like to begin when we talk about social media. And I'll take a breath now.
Okay. Let me see if I can summarize that very quickly, and then we'll turn it over to students. I think, basically Chris has just observed what we have studied in Com 610 with the history of social media, and that's the evolution from that one-to-many, the original web, to the many-to-many, the Web 2.0. It's changed the dynamics of the way we communicate. And I've talked to lots of communication experts that will say that, Twitter doesn't communicate, Facebook doesn't communicate, humans communicate. And the social media have become tools that help us amplify and distribute that message to a much wider audience and more selectively. So those are all very good points. And Tim is really an expert at Twitter and can enlighten us on how to corral these huge audiences through Twitter and LinkedIn and drive them to your location. As we've studied in 610, the integration of social media, not just using things like Pinterest and Twitter to socialize, but rather use those channels in a way that integrates and harmonizes your message, reaches more audiences, and brings them to your desired locations to create that audience, that community of like-minded people who you can listen to and speak with. So let me, at that point, throw it over to students. And I have a list. I'll just go down through the list. Rather than have too many questions pile up in the chat, I'll just randomly go through our list of attendees, and I'll see who's on the board. So you got a couple thumbs up. Let's start with Nia Lissamore. Nia, do you have a question ready for Tim and Chris? And while that's coming, I see Pat Hickey. Welcome. Some of us are sharing video tonight, and others are just using our screenshots. But welcome.
Mark, can I just piggyback on something Chris said also? As
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Waiting for questions.
Yeah.
Chris is on the money, no pun intended. Because first of all, it makes the job of the PR person easier, and yet it also makes it a little bit more difficult. It makes it easier because you're able to get your message out. And, again, doing PR at Marist over the years, it was nice to be able to have an unfiltered message go out on a particular medium, whether it's a video that's put out by admissions on YouTube, or something put up on Facebook page, or a tweet sent out on Twitter to create a conversation. And it has to be a conversation. It can't just be a billboard. You can't just put something up and don't expect people to react directly to it. It's difficult in, I think, two aspects. One, your bosses may still not be totally on board with understanding what social media is. I think that's changing dramatically. But I still hear it in some locations. Even where I work now, I work in a heavily regulated industry, the pharmaceutical industry. And our presence in social media still is nearly non-existent because every word has to be scrutinized for any possible violation of FDA regulations or Drug Enforcement Administration regulations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, some of your bosses may still think, I still want to see something in the New York Times, which Still, great, not knocking that. I want to see something in the Chronicle of Higher Education. I want to see something in the Wall Street Journal. I want to see something on Fox or Good Morning America. And those opportunities are becoming more difficult to bring to reality because the number of people who work in those positions have changed dramatically. I mean, so many reporters that I've worked with in major market and small market media over the years are no longer in those jobs, and the news holes are smaller. That
can I?
No, go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
I was gonna add to it. I think again you're right on the money, and this is gonna be a love fest tonight because we're all very similar-minded people. But I love what you're saying, and I do have an interesting anecdotal story in terms of PR specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So, firstly, Silverback Social is working around alleviating those concerns in terms of checkpoints and having to get FT, all the different, whatever group that your company needs to have regulations monitor. That's part of what we do. We put together content calendars. We work with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and we actually we write 20 to 30 tweets, send them for them to approve, and then we'll live tweet them, and we use them throughout the course of events. Like there was a 2020 event last week when There's Some Day As Today commercial aired, and we wanted to live tweet the entire event, but they saw all 25 or 30 tweets that we were going to post before we posted them, and they allow for us to create evergreen tweets. Thanks. We appreciate that. Smiley face, retweet, all of that, and that's the filler content. So there are ways around that. That's one thing. The second thing is I was approached by a PR firm, R. Corey Hay, to work with me specifically, saying, oh, you should pay us to be your PR agency and this, that, and the other thing. And I went to a meeting to hear them out, and I said, well, I don't have any budget allocated for PR, and frankly, I've done really well just by virtue of generating really good content through my blog, through Twitter, and getting out there and writing blog posts on other blogs, on social media today, and generating buzz on my own. And the joke was, in the middle of the meeting, Fox News called me, and I held it up, and I said, see, I don't need you. Now, I'm not slamming PR because we eventually figured out a barter deal where I would do the social media for the PR agency, and they're doing my PR, and they have taken the the article in the New York Times plus my work and made it into this sort of beautiful mixture of consistency, relevancy, major contacts through major PR outlets that I would have never touched, that still aren't there yet, that still aren't sourcing by virtue of reading a Twitter feed, that still don't care how many Twitter followers I have because they're just looking for Fox or for a major national television appearance, and then they'll say, oh, yeah, we want to talk to that guy. And even the local appearances, he's too small time for us. So there's still definitive relevance within PR, and this is coming from the social media guy.
Let me just interrupt. I guess I'm getting rusty, having been out of the practice of PR for a while, Tim and Chris. I wanted to mention ground rules. We're talking about some interesting topics, including, perhaps some clients of Tim and Chris. I just want to make sure our ground rules are clear. So I am recording, so we can replay this back to those who could not attend. And if anyone objects, please contact me before tomorrow. Also, Tim and Chris, is it okay if we remain on the record? I know some people are live tweeting, and is it okay if we quote what you're saying or attribute what you're saying?
Sure, that's fine.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You kidding me? I love it. I'm responding to everybody. Let's see, we got Nini, we got Kate Kramatsky here, we got Kristen Grosso, we got Bobby Sue, Teletachi.
I know. Yeah,
everybody's
good
tweeting.
news, right, Chris?
Yeah, this is great. You kidding me? I love this. Kate Smith, yeah, all right.